On the evening of May 3rd, 2007, a nightmare began that would captivate the world for over 16 years. A 3-year-old girl named Madeleine McCann vanished without a trace from a Portuguese holiday resort. What started as a family vacation in paradise became the most publicized missing person case in modern history. Tonight, we dive deep into every detail, every theory, and every haunting question that remains unanswered. This is the story of Madeleine McCann, the little girl who disappeared into thin air. Welcome to the world's most mysterious disappearance. Before we begin, let me ask you something that will chill you to the bone. What if I told you that in the time it takes to watch this video, dozens of children will go missing around the world? What if I told you that some disappearances are so perfect, so inexplicable, that they defy all logic? The case of Madeleine McCann is one such mystery. It's May 3rd, 2007, in Praia da Luz, Portugal. Kate and Gary McCann are enjoying what should be a perfect family holiday with their 3 children. Madeleine, just 3 years old, and her twin siblings Sean and Emily, barely 2. The McCanns are staying at the Ocean Club Resort, apartment 5A. It's a ground floor apartment with a view of the pool and easy access to the street. On this particular evening, the couple decides to dine at a tapas restaurant just 120 meters away. They can see their apartment from their table, but they cannot see inside. This decision would haunt them forever. The group of friends they're dining with would later be known as the Tapas 7. They had arranged to take turns checking on their sleeping children every 30 minutes. At 9:05 p.m., Gary McCann makes his scheduled check on apartment 5A. He enters through the patio doors, which were left unlocked for easy access. All 3 children are sleeping peacefully in their beds. Everything appears normal, but Gary notices the bedroom door is more open than he remembered leaving it. He adjusts it slightly and returns to dinner, thinking nothing of it. At 9:30 p.m., family friend Matthew Oldfield offers to check on the McCann children during his own check. He listens at the door and hears no sounds of distress. He doesn't actually see the children, but assumes all is well. This would later become a crucial detail in the investigation. At exactly 10 p.m., Kate McCann goes to check on her children. She approaches apartment 5A and immediately senses something is wrong. The door to the children's bedroom is wide open, much wider than before. She enters the room and her world collapses. Madeleine's bed is empty. Kate frantically searches the small apartment, calling Madeleine's name. She checks every room, every closet, every possible hiding place. But Madeleine is nowhere to be found. The twins are still sleeping soundly in their cots, undisturbed. Kate notices the bedroom window is open, and the shutters have been raised from the outside. In a state of panic, she runs back to the restaurant. Her words pierce the Portuguese night air like a knife. They've taken her. Someone's taken Madeleine. The entire resort erupts into chaos as guests and staff join the search. But in those crucial first hours, precious time is lost. The Portuguese police aren't called until 10:40 p.m., 40 minutes after the discovery. The first officers arrive at 11:10 p.m., over an hour after Madeleine was found missing. By then, any forensic evidence may have already been contaminated. The crime scene, if it was a crime scene, had been compromised. Dozens of people had trampled through apartment 5A during the search. The window that Kate found open, the bedroom where Madeleine slept, all of it contaminated. But here's where the story takes its first dark turn. The Portuguese police immediately focused their suspicion on an unlikely source: the parents themselves. In Portugal, parents who leave children unattended can be charged with abandonment. The police begin treating Kate and Gary not as victims, but as suspects. This decision would color the entire investigation and create a media firestorm. Meanwhile, the search for Madeleine expands across the Algarve region. Police dogs, helicopters, and hundreds of volunteers scour the coastline and countryside. But they find nothing, not a single trace of the missing girl. As news of the disappearance spreads, international media descends on Praia da Luz. The story captures global attention like no missing person case before it. Perhaps it's the photogenic family, the exotic location, or the mysterious circumstances. Whatever the reason, Madeleine McCann becomes the most famous missing child in the world. Her image is plastered on newspapers, television screens, and websites across the globe. The distinctive mark in her right eye, a coloboma, makes her instantly recognizable. But as the days turn into weeks, disturbing details begin to emerge. The Portuguese police investigation appears chaotic and incompetent. Evidence is mishandled, witnesses aren't properly interviewed, and leads aren't followed up. The apartment where Madeleine disappeared isn't sealed off as a crime scene until the next day. Crucial CCTV footage from nearby locations is either never collected or has been recorded. Over. The border with Spain, just an hour's drive away, isn't sealed for 12 hours. If someone did take Madeleine, they had ample time to disappear with her. But the police seem more interested in building a case against the parents than finding the missing girl. In September 2007, 4 months after Madeleine's disappearance, the unthinkable happens. Kate and Gary McCann are officially named as suspects in their own daughter's disappearance. The Portuguese police theory is that Madeleine died in the apartment, possibly by accident. They believe the parents disposed of her body and staged an abduction to cover it up. This theory is based on several pieces of circumstantial evidence. British police dogs, brought in to search the apartment, allegedly detected the scent of death. They also reportedly detected this scent on Kate's clothing and in the rental car the family hired weeks later. But here's the problem with this theory. It makes no sense. The timeline doesn't work, the logistics are impossible, and the evidence is questionable at best. How could the parents dispose of a body with dozens of people searching and police arriving? When could they have moved a body to their rental car, which they didn't hire until weeks later? And why would two intelligent doctors risk everything to cover up an accident? The sniffer dog evidence is particularly controversial. These dogs are trained to detect human remains, but they can give false positives. They can react to cleaning products, decomposing food, or even the stress pheromones of distraught parents. No human remains, blood, or DNA belonging to Madeleine was ever found in the apartment or car, but the damage was done. The court of public opinion had turned against the McCanns. The Portuguese media, and soon the British tabloids, portrayed them as cold, calculating killers. Kate was criticized for not showing enough emotion, for being too composed. Gary was attacked for going jogging the morning after Madeleine disappeared. Every aspect of their behavior was scrutinized and twisted into evidence of guilt. But those who knew them personally painted a very different picture. They described two loving parents destroyed by the loss of their daughter. Kate barely ate or slept for weeks after the disappearance. Gary threw himself into the campaign to find Madeleine as a way to cope with his grief. Neither parent has ever shown any signs of guilt or inconsistency in their statements. They submitted to multiple police interviews, polygraph tests, and psychiatric evaluations. Every expert who examined them concluded they were telling the truth. So if the parents didn't harm Madeleine, what really happened that night? Let's examine the evidence for an abduction, the theory the McCanns have always maintained. The apartment was easily accessible from multiple entry points. The patio doors were unlocked, and the front door could be opened from inside without a key. The bedroom window, though it required some effort, could be opened from outside. An intruder could have watched the family's routine and known exactly when to strike. The 30-minute gaps between checks provided ample opportunity. Several witnesses reported seeing suspicious individuals near the apartment that week. One tourist photographed a man watching children at the resort's kids club. The man was never identified, despite the photo being circulated widely. On the night of the disappearance itself, there were several reported sightings. The most significant came from Jane Tanner, one of the Tapa 7. At 9:15 p.m., just 10 minutes after Jerry's check, she saw a man carrying a child near the apartment. The man was walking away from the Ocean Club toward the beach. The child appeared to be wearing pajamas, similar to those Madeleine was wearing. Jane didn't think much of it at the time, assuming it was a father carrying his sleeping child. But after Madeleine's disappearance, this sighting took on sinister significance. Another witness, Martin Smith, reported seeing a man carrying a child near the beach. Around 10 p.m., he later said the man's gait reminded him of Gary McCann. This led to more suspicion of the parents, but Smith later retracted this identification. The problem with eyewitness testimony is that it's notoriously unreliable. People see what they expect to see, and memories change over time. In a high-stress situation like this, witnesses can be influenced by media coverage and police suggestions. Nevertheless, these sightings suggest that someone was moving through Praia da Luz with a child that night. But who was this mysterious figure? And was the child really Madeleine? As the Portuguese investigation stalled, private investigators took over. The McCanns hired a succession of detective agencies to continue the search. Some of these investigators were legitimate professionals with impressive track records. Others were opportunistic fraudsters who promised results they couldn't deliver. The most controversial was Kevin Halligan, who claimed to have intelligence connections. He convinced the McCanns to pay him over £300,000 for his services. But Halligan was later revealed to be a conman who had spent the money on a lavish lifestyle. He died in 2018 without ever providing any useful information about Madeleine. Despite these setbacks, some legitimate leads did emerge from the private investigations. There were reports of child trafficking networks operating in the Algarve region. Portugal's border with Spain made it a natural transit point for illegal activities. Some investigators believed Madeleine may have been taken to order by an international pedophile ring. This theory gained credibility when similar disappearances occurred in the area. Several other young children had vanished from holiday resorts along the Portuguese coast. Most were never found, and the cases shared disturbing similarities. All involved young children taken from ground floor apartments while parents dined nearby. All occurred at resort complexes popular with British tourists, and all seemed to involve someone with detailed knowledge of the family's routines. This suggested a predator or network of predators, specifically targeting vulnerable tourists. But despite these patterns, no arrests were ever made in connection with these disappearances. As years passed, the case began to fade from public attention. The Portuguese police officially shelved the investigation in 2008. Kate and Gary McCann's suspect status was lifted, but no alternative theory was pursued. Madeleine became just another cold case file, gathering dust in a Portuguese police station. But the McCanns never gave up hope. They continued their campaign, maintaining a website and social media presence. They lobbied the British government to pressure Portuguese authorities, and they never stopped believing that Madeleine was still alive somewhere. Their persistence finally paid off in 2011. The British government, under pressure from the McCanns and media, launched Operation Grange. This was a comprehensive review of the entire case by Scotland Yard detectives. Operation Grange would become one of the most expensive missing person investigations in British history. Over the next decade, it would cost taxpayers more than £12 million. But it would also uncover evidence that the Portuguese police had missed or ignored. The British detectives identified over 600 potentially significant leads. They cataloged thousands of phone calls and witness statements that had never been properly analyzed. Most importantly, they took a fresh look at the timeline of that fateful night. What they discovered would change everything. The British investigators realized that the Portuguese police had focused too narrowly on the parents. They had ignored a wealth of evidence pointing to an intruder. Phone records showed unusual activity in the area around the time of the disappearance. Several calls were made between suspected criminals in the hours before and after Madeleine vanished. CCTV footage, which the Portuguese had dismissed as irrelevant, showed suspicious vehicles near the resort. Witness statements that didn't fit the parents as killers theory had been suppressed or ignored. The British team also discovered a pattern of break-ins in the area leading up to May 3rd. Someone had been entering holiday apartments and attacking young children. In most cases, the intruder would sit on the edge of the child's bed and sexually assault them. These attacks had been reported to Portuguese police, but never properly investigated. The pattern suggested a predator who is escalating his behavior. Perhaps Madeleine's disappearance wasn't a planned abduction at all. Maybe it was a sexual assault that went wrong, forcing the intruder to take the child. This theory would explain the open window and the lack of forced entry. The predator may have entered through the unlocked patio doors as he had done before. But when Madeleine woke up or started to cry, he panicked and took her with him. Operation Grange identified several potential suspects based on this theory. Men with histories of sexual offenses against children who were in the area at the time. Some had been staying at nearby hotels or campsites. Others were drifters or seasonal workers who moved through tourist areas. But the most significant breakthrough came from an unexpected source. German prosecutors, investigating an unrelated case, stumbled upon evidence that would shock the world. In 2020, 13 years after Madeleine's disappearance, they announced a new prime. Suspect: Christian Bruckner, a German pedophile with a history of crimes against children. Bruckner had been living in the Algarve region at the time of Madeleine's disappearance. His phone records showed he was in Praia da Luz on the night she vanished. Even more disturbing, he had bragged to friends about committing crimes that were never solved. In one recorded conversation, he allegedly confessed to kidnapping a child from a key Portuguese resort. The German authorities believe they have enough evidence to charge Bruckner with Madeleine's murder. But Portuguese and British authorities have been more cautious about the strength of the case. Bruckner himself has denied any involvement in Madeleine's disappearance. His lawyers claim the evidence is circumstantial and that he's being scapegoated. So who is Christian Bruckner, and what makes him such a compelling suspect? Born in 1976, Bruckner had been in trouble with the law since he was a teenager. His criminal record includes burglary, drug dealing, and sexual offenses against children. In 2019, he was convicted of raping a 72-year-old American tourist in Praia da Luz. This rape occurred in the same area where Madeleine disappeared just 18 months earlier. Bruckner's method in that attack was telling. He broke into the woman's apartment through a window while she slept. He wore a mask and used cable ties to restrain his victim. The attack was filmed, suggesting Bruckner was part of a network that traded in such material. After the rape, he stole items from the apartment before disappearing. This pattern of behavior, breaking into tourist accommodations to commit sexual crimes, matches the theory of what happened to Madeleine. But there's more evidence connecting Bruckner to the McCann case. In 2017, on the 10th anniversary of Madeleine's disappearance, Bruckner was drinking in a bar in Germany A news report about the case came on television, and Bruckner made a chilling comment. According to witnesses, he said he knew what had happened to Madeleine. When pressed for details, he allegedly said that she didn't scream when he took her. This conversation was recorded by someone present, though the quality is poor. German prosecutors believe this amounts to a confession, but defense lawyers argue the recording is unclear and could be misinterpreted. There's also physical evidence potentially linking Bruckner to the scene. He owned a mobile phone that was active in Praia da Luz on the night Madeleine disappeared. The phone received a call at 7:32 p.m., about 2.5 hours before the disappearance. The call lasted 30 minutes and came from another German man living in Portugal. Investigators believe this call may have been coordinating the abduction. The timing is significant because it shows Bruckner was in the area earlier that evening. He could have been conducting surveillance, watching the McCann family's routine. After the call ended, his phone went silent until the early hours of the next morning. This gap coincides perfectly with the window when Madeleine disappeared. But perhaps the most damning evidence comes from Bruckner's own behavior. The day after Madeleine's disappearance, he re-registered his car. This 1993 Jaguar had been registered to someone else, but Bruckner suddenly transferred it to his name. Investigators believe he may have used this car to transport Madeleine. The timing of the re-registration is highly suspicious. Why would someone suddenly register a car the day after a major crime in the area? It suggests Bruckner was worried the vehicle could be traced back to him. German prosecutors have also found evidence in Bruckner's properties. When they searched his former homes, they discovered disturbing materials. Thousands of images and videos depicting child sexual abuse. Some of this material showed crimes he had committed himself. But there was also evidence of a more organized operation. Bruckner appeared to be part of a network that shared and traded such material internationally. This discovery supports the theory that Madeleine was taken by an organized pedophile ring. Perhaps she wasn't just a victim of opportunity, but was specifically targeted. Child trafficking networks often receive orders for children with particular characteristics. Madeleine was blonde, blue-eyed, and from a wealthy family. These features would make her highly valuable in the illegal adoption market. Some investigators believe she may still be alive, held captive somewhere in Eastern Europe or North Africa. But German prosecutors have stated they believe Madeleine is dead. They claim to have evidence that Bruckner killed her shortly after the abduction. However, they have never revealed what this evidence is. The lack of transparency has frustrated both the McCann family and the public. If there is proof that Madeleine is dead, why hasn't Bruckner been charged? If there isn't sufficient evidence, why make such definitive statements? The German investigation has been shrouded in secrecy from the beginning. This has led to speculation and conspiracy theories about what they really know. Some believe the Germans have found Madeleine's remains, but haven't revealed the location. Others think they're bluffing, hoping to pressure Bruckner into confessing. The truth is that we simply don't know what evidence the Germans have. What we do know is that Bruckner remains behind bars in Germany. He's currently serving a 7-year sentence for the rape of the American tourist. But he has never been formally charged in connection with Madeleine's disappearance. This has led to criticism of the German prosecution. If they have evidence that he killed Madeleine, why the delay in bringing charges? If they don't have enough evidence, why continue to name him publicly as the suspect? The situation has created a legal limbo that serves no one's interests. Bruckner can't clear his name, and the McCann family can't get closure. Meanwhile, if Bruckner isn't responsible, the real perpetrator remains free. This brings us to one of the most troubling aspects of the entire case. The investigation has been marred by incompetence, politics, and national pride from the beginning. The Portuguese police were defensive about criticism of their initial response. The British authorities were frustrated by what they saw as Portuguese stonewalling. The Germans have been secretive about their evidence and methods. Throughout it all, the search for truth has been overshadowed by jurisdictional disputes and media circus. 3 different countries have investigated the case, often working at cross purposes. Evidence has been lost, witnesses have died, and crucial time has been wasted. If there had been better coordination from the beginning, might Madeleine have been found? We'll never know, but the failures are undeniable. As we approach the 17th anniversary of Madeleine's disappearance, what have we learned? First, that the initial focus on the parents was almost certainly wrong. Kate and Gary McCann have endured years of suspicion and accusations. They've been subjected to investigation by multiple police forces and private detectives. Every aspect of their lives has been scrutinized and dissected. Yet no credible evidence has ever emerged to suggest they harmed their daughter. The theory that they accidentally killed Madeleine and covered it up simply doesn't hold water. The logistics would have been impossible, and their behavior has been consistent with innocent parents. Second, we've learned that the evidence for abduction is compelling. There were multiple opportunities for an intruder to take Madeleine. The apartment was easily accessible, and the family's routine was predictable. There were suspicious individuals in the area, and similar crimes had occurred nearby. The pattern of break-ins and sexual assaults suggests a serial predator was operating in the region. Third, we've learned that international cooperation in criminal investigations is still flawed. Different legal systems, languages, and cultures can create barriers to justice. The lack of coordination between Portuguese, British, and German authorities has been frustrating. Important evidence may have been lost or overlooked because of these failures. But perhaps most importantly, we've learned that some mysteries may never be solved. Despite 16 years of investigation, millions of dollars spent, and countless theories explored, we still don't know what happened to Madeleine McCann. We don't know if she's alive or dead. We don't know who took her or why. We don't know if she's being held somewhere or if she died that night in 2007. This uncertainty is perhaps the cruelest aspect of the entire case. For Kate and Gary McCann, it means they can never truly grieve or move on. They must live with the possibility that their daughter is still alive somewhere, waiting to be rescued. But they must also face the likelihood that she's gone forever. The psychological toll of this limbo is almost unimaginable. It's been reported that Kate still buys Christmas presents for Madeleine every year. The family has moved house, but they've kept Madeleine's bedroom exactly as it was. They continue to mark her birthday and speak to her in their prayers. This behavior has been criticized by some as unhealthy or delusional. But how else should parents cope with such an impossible situation? The truth is that there's no roadmap for dealing with this kind of loss. When a child dies, parents can grieve and eventually heal. When a child disappears without trace, the wound never closes. The case has also had a profound impact on society's perception of child safety. Before Madeleine's disappearance, it was common for British tourists to leave children unattended while dining nearby. Many families had done exactly what the McCanns did without incident. But after May 3, 2007, such behavior became unthinkable for most parents. The case served as a stark reminder that children are vulnerable, even in seemingly safe environments. It changed how we think about risk and parental responsibility. The media coverage of the case has also been controversial. Some argue that the intense focus on Madeleine was disproportionate. Hundreds of children disappear every year, but few receive such attention. Critics suggest that Madeleine's case was prioritized because she was white, middle class, and photogenic. They point out that missing children from minority backgrounds rarely generate such interest. There's some truth to this criticism, and it raises uncomfortable questions about media bias and societal priorities. But the McCann family didn't choose to become a global phenomenon. They simply wanted their daughter back, and they used every tool available to achieve that goal. The media attention, while sometimes intrusive and harmful, also kept Madeleine's case in the public eye. Without that coverage, the investigation might have been abandoned years ago. So where does this leave us today in 2024? Christian Bruckner remains the prime suspect in German eyes, but charges have yet to be filed. The British Operation Grange continues, though with a much smaller team than before. The Portuguese authorities have reopened their investigation, but seem to be following the German lead. Meanwhile, Madeleine would now be 21 years old. If she's alive, she might not even remember her real name or her family. She could be living anywhere in the world, possibly unaware of her true identity. This possibility keeps hope alive for her parents and supporters. There have been numerous alleged sightings over the years. Madeleine has supposedly been seen in Morocco, Spain, France, Germany, and dozens of other countries. Most of these sightings have proved to be false alarms or mistaken identity, but some remain unexplained and continue to fuel speculation. In 2019, a young woman named Julia Wendell claimed to be Madeleine McCann. She bore some physical resemblance and had no clear memories of her early childhood. Her claims generated massive media attention and thousands of online followers. But DNA testing eventually proved she was not Madeleine. This incident highlighted the ongoing public fascination with the case. It also showed how desperate people are for resolution, even false resolution. The hunger for answers has spawned countless documentaries, books, and podcasts about the case. Some of these have been thoughtful and well-researched. Others have been sensationalistic or promoted conspiracy theories. The most controversial was a 2019 Netflix documentary that implied the parents' guilt. This led to a new wave of online harassment against the McCann family. It demonstrated how dangerous it can be when media coverage becomes detached from evidence. So what are the most credible theories about what happened to Madeleine? The first is that she was abducted by Christian Bruckner or someone like him, a sexual predator who broke into the apartment intending to assault her. When she woke up or resisted, he took her to avoid being caught. In this scenario, Madeleine was likely killed shortly after the abduction. Her body was disposed of somewhere in the Portuguese countryside. Despite extensive searches, it has never been found. The second theory is that she was taken by a child trafficking network. These criminal organizations kidnap children to sell into illegal adoption or worse. In this scenario, Madeleine might still be alive, but living under a false identity. She could be anywhere in the world, possibly unaware of her true origins. The third theory is that her disappearance was a tragic accident that was covered up, not necessarily by her parents, but by someone else at the resort, perhaps a staff member or another guest who panicked and disposed of evidence. This theory would explain the lack of physical evidence and witness sightings, but it seems less likely given the patterns of criminal activity in the area. The fourth theory is the one favored by conspiracy theorists, that powerful people were involved in Madeleine's disappearance. Some claim she was taken by an elite pedophile ring with political connections. Others suggest government cover-ups or international conspiracies. These theories are not supported by credible evidence. They often rely on manipulated images, misquoted sources, and logical fallacies. While it's natural to look for complex explanations for inexplicable events, the truth is usually simpler. The most likely explanation remains that Madeleine was taken by a predator acting alone or with minimal assistance. Someone who saw an opportunity and acted on it impulsively. The tragic irony is that if the initial investigation had been handled properly, we might know the truth by now. If the Portuguese police had secured the crime scene immediately, if they had collected all available CCTV footage before it was recorded over, if they had coordinated properly with international authorities, if they had followed up on witness reports of suspicious individuals, any one of these actions might have made the difference. Instead, we're left with a cold case that may never be solved. But the search continues, driven by a mother's love and a father's determination. Kate and Gary McCann refuse to give up hope. They continue to campaign for answers and support other families of missing children. Their twins, Sean and Emily, are now adults themselves. They've grown up in the shadow of their sister's disappearance. Despite the trauma and media attention, they've become well-adjusted young people. They occasionally speak about their missing sister and their hope that she return. The case has also led to improvements in how missing child cases are handled. There's now better coordination between international police forces. Child protection measures at holiday resorts have been strengthened, and there's greater awareness of the risks children face, even in seemingly safe environments. Perhaps this is part of Madeleine's legacy, that other children are safer because of what happened to her. But that's cold comfort to parents who just want their daughter back. As we conclude this deep dive into one of the world's most mysterious disappearances, what can we say with certainty? We know that on the evening of May 3rd, 2007, a 3-year-old girl vanished from her bed. We know that despite 16 years of investigation, she has never been found. We know that her disappearance has captivated the world and changed how we think about child safety. We know that her parents have endured unimaginable pain and public scrutiny. We know that the investigation has been flawed from the beginning. And we know that somewhere, someone knows what really happened to Madeleine McCann. Whether it's Christian Bruckner or someone else entirely, the truth exists. The question is whether it will ever come to light. Perhaps new evidence will emerge that finally solves the case. Perhaps advances in forensic technology will reveal clues that were previously invisible. Perhaps someone with knowledge will finally decide to speak. Or perhaps the mystery will endure forever, becoming one of those unsolved cases that haunts us for generations. Whatever the outcome, Madeleine McCann's disappearance serves as a reminder of how fragile our sense of security really is. It shows us that terrible things can happen to innocent children, even when their parents do everything they think is right. It demonstrates the importance of vigilance, but also the limits of what vigilance can achieve. Most of all, it reminds us that behind every missing child poster is a family whose world has been shattered. Kate and Gary McCann went on holiday expecting to make happy memories with their children. Instead, they found themselves at the center of a nightmare that continues to this day. Their daughter's bedroom still waits for her return. Her presents still accumulate under the Christmas tree, and her parents still hope that someday, somehow, they'll see her again. Until that day comes, if it ever does, the question remains: what happened to Madeleine McCann? The world is still waiting for an answer. If you have any information about Madeleine's disappearance, please contact your local police or the Operation Grange team. Even the smallest detail could be the key to solving this mystery. And if you're a parent watching this, hold your children a little tighter tonight. In a world where 3-year-olds can vanish without a trace, every moment with them is precious. Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of the most perplexing mysteries of our time. The disappearance of Madeleine McCann continues to haunt us because it represents every parent's worst nightmare. The idea that a child can simply vanish, leaving no trace, no answers, no closure. As we've seen, the case has been marked by investigative failures, media sensationalism, and international politics. But at its heart It's a story about a little girl who deserved better. She deserved to grow up safe and loved. She deserved to celebrate her 21st birthday with her family. She deserved to live a normal life, free from the shadows that have consumed her story. Instead, Madeleine McCann became a symbol of every missing child. Her face on posters and websites around the world. Her story told and retold in countless documentaries and books. Her disappearance dissected and analyzed by armchair detectives and conspiracy theorists. But beyond all the speculation and theories, she remains what she always was. A little girl who loved Pink and Cuddle Cat, her favorite toy. A child who asked why constantly and made her parents laugh every day. A daughter who is missed every single moment by the family she left behind. Whether Christian Bruckner is guilty or innocent, whether new evidence emerges or the case remains cold forever, one thing is certain. Madeleine McCann's disappearance changed the world. It changed how we protect our children. It changed how missing person cases are investigated. It changed our understanding of the threats that exist in seemingly safe places. And it reminded us that in our interconnected world, a tragedy in a small Portuguese resort can touch hearts across the globe. The little girl with the distinctive coloboma in her right eye became one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. Not because she wanted fame, but because she needed help. That help is still needed today. So as this story ends, the search continues. Somewhere out there, answers exist. Someone knows what happened on that night in May 2007. Someone knows where Madeleine is or where she was taken. Someone holds the key to solving the world's most mysterious disappearance. Until they speak, until the truth emerges, we can only wait and hope. Hope that justice will eventually be served. Hope that the McCann family will finally get answers. And hope that wherever Madeleine is now, she knows that the world never forgot about her. The search for Madeleine McCann continues, and it will continue until the day the truth is finally revealed. This has been the story of the world's most mysterious disappearance. Thank you for watching, and never forget to keep looking. End